ecosystem of public safety. One part of that is the Metropolitan Police Department, but the other agencies of government, our federal partners, contribute to our safety as well. I will host the Public Safety Summit on May 10th among our public safety ecosystem to talk and look very candidly at all parts of that system and ask ourselves, what could we be doing differently to make sure we're keeping our city safe? We also intend to introduce a piece of legislation to the council, having talked to all of our partners about where we think there are gaps in the law that need to be addressed. So now I want to turn to our Chief of Police for his comments on this focused strategy, but also on his tenure at MPD. Chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, and again, thank you, Madam Mayor. MPD is committed to holding people accountable for engaging in violent crimes, but beyond holding people accountable, our officers are problem solvers and are here to help the community. Community engagement is very near and dear to my heart. When I was a young patrol officer back in 1992, in October 1993, as a 3rd District officer, I was named Officer of the Month. Not because of the number of arrests, not because of the number of tickets that were written, but actually because of the way that I engaged community members. That was the thing that brought attention to Robert Contee as a young police officer in the 3rd District to become the 3rd District's Officer of the Month. And when I took over as chief, I set out to focus on 4 pillars as we move MPD into the future: focused law enforcement and intelligence-led policing, impactful community engagement, innovative infrastructure, and an engaged workforce. In addition to the summer crime initiatives that we've done year after year, and we've been certainly focusing on these things, but a year ago we launched our Community Focused Patrol Unit, which are mountain bike officers riding mountain bikes in communities and are directly interacting with community members and solving problems, and have made significant impacts across the city. We also launched the Homicide Reduction Partnership, where we saw reductions in violence and homicides in communities. We also focused in on our nightlife areas by the formation of the multi-agency Nightlife Task Force, and we saw significant reductions in those areas. And we identified certain areas that were seeing increases in crime and created our Violent Crime Reduction Partnership, which has led to the reductions in overall crime along the Good Hope Road and in the Brightwood-Petworth area. With those efforts, last year we saw a 10% reduction in homicides, a 7% reduction in violent crime, and a 4% reduction in overall crime. And starting on Monday, we're continuing to build on that with the launch of our Focus Patrol and community engagement strategy. We are utilizing data to identify areas in our city most impacted by crime and tasking officers to spend time being problem solvers. But this isn't putting someone standing on a corner to deter crime or officers just writing tickets and making arrests. This is about officers getting out of their vehicles and engaging with the community by being problem solvers, talking with community members to identify issues, checking in with businesses and apartment complexes, reporting quality of life issues to 311. In the past, our summer crime initiative would take officers from across the city and put them in specific areas to increase their presence. This is different. This is intentional community-focused policing in all quadrants of the city. We're tasking our patrol officers from each patrol district to be aware of the area concerns, having those officers get out of their cruisers and intentionally spend time in those areas, track the impact they're making, and utilize data to track progress. As a department, we are going to constantly review the data and assess these areas. This is a new look of policing where we are constantly evolving, making tweaks, and letting the data prove our progress. I am confident that this continued focus on impactful community engagement and focused law enforcement efforts, along with the assistance from the community, will lead to a reduction in crime. And some people may ask, well, wow, things seem like, we're having this or having that. Well, I look at crime stats every single day. And I just happened to look today at where we were this time last year on this day, when we not long after the meeting had launched our nightlife task force. And just as a reminder, on this day, we were showing a 25% increase in violent crime on this day last year, a 54% increase in robberies on this day last year, 7% increase in property crimes, and 9% overall increase in crime. And I vowed to the mayor, I vowed to the residents of the District of Columbia, and I vowed that with this command staff that we will work to reduce crime. And that's exactly what we did by the end of last year. We reduced crime in our city. And after reducing crime in our city, we look at where we are now. These numbers where we are right now, while they can be disheartening, it is a problem when people are still fearful in their neighborhoods. And we want to focus in on fear in neighborhoods. And by making sure that our officers are out in communities, engaging members of the community, doing things that are impactful to community members, I think that we will continue to see reductions in crime. So that's it for the official statement, and I just kind of want to transition a little bit and talk about my departure. Serving as Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department here in our nation's capital, again, has been the highest honor. When I started in this role as Chief, I stood before our communities, bared my soul, and told my story. All of us have stories. I talked about my father, and my father being drug addicted for the majority of my childhood and even into my adult life and rise through the ranks on the police department. I talked about my family. We're not perfect or anything like that. Just a little kid from Carvateras who happened to dream, who happened to be inspired by some people and dared to do something that might be impactful in this community. Am I perfect? Absolutely not, by any stretch of the imagination. But it is my highest honor to be able to serve the residents in the District of Columbia in the capacity that I have for the last 33 years of my life. Sacrifices to my family, sacrifices to my extended family, and just personal sacrifices. I saw a news report yesterday, mentioning, that I had some health challenges. That was true at some point. I don't have any health issues now, thank God, and I am so thankful that this is a move that I have decided to make for Robert Contee. I have decided to make this move, in addition to it being for Robert Contee, but to inspire young people all across our city. A kid from Carvateras to rise up to be the chief of police and now an assistant director of the FBI, that's going to inspire some kids. Ask me how I know. I think about how we expanded our police cadet program under my tenure and with the mayor's support, where we have expanded our police program to now have 118 young people, majority of them from Ward 7 and Ward 8. Half of those young women who are now having a paid salary. Their tuition is paid for. We're paying for their education, and they have a career in law enforcement, and just really in a city that I have so much admiration and respect for. So this assignment, this next assignment for me, it really goes beyond Robert Contee. It creates opportunities for members of our command staff who have been working equally hard over the years to move into different places as a result of my departure. So I do not leave with bitter feelings towards anyone, towards any entity within our city. I'm very happy that I've been able to push the conversation about the ecosystem that exists here in our nation's capital. And I think that that's something that really needs to be looked at. We need to look at how are we actually seeing the outcomes that we want to see with respect to violent crime and people who commit violent crimes in our community. Are we seeing the outcomes that we want? And if not, how are we challenging the system in that space? So I have been pushing that conversation. Hopefully it will continue. But again, I just want to say it has been the greatest honor of my life. I want to say thank you to my family who has supported me through all of this. Some people may be able to understand, but it is an incredible task. It's not just me who's chiefing, it's my family that's chiefing as well. Trust me when I tell you that. And when my 10-year-old son, and I'm trying to get homework done with him, and I'm answering one of your phone calls, he reminds me that I'm still dad. So I am just very excited to be able to now transition into a space that allows me a little bit more time to spend with family. Let me talk a little bit about our mayor here. I will tell you that as you conduct a search for the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, I think that you will find candidates all across this country that will be interested, and I'll tell you why. Because this mayor right here has been supportive of her law enforcement agency, and she has been unwavering in that support since day one. So, Madam Mayor, I want to personally thank you for supporting me and supporting the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department. That does not go unnoticed. And as I shared with you, for those of you who say, oh, this was breaking news yesterday, he just told the mayor dropped the bomb at 5 o'clock. We actually talked about this earlier in the week. So when I shared this with the mayor, this was a very tough decision for me. A very tough decision for me to transition from this city that I love in the capacity that I'm in. But one of the things that I thought about, and really the reason that this next position is very attractive to me, is because of the mission that's associated with it. Being able to connect with and support law enforcement agencies on a national level is something that I'm very interested in. Sure, there are offers from the private sector and all of that kind of stuff that come with this role. But that's not my area of interest. My passion is really to serve communities and to serve the people of the District of Columbia. But now I'll be able to do that again on a national level. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who's gathered here today. And for all the citizens who are watching at home on TV, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the text messages, the phone calls, the emails. I haven't got back to everybody, but I do promise that before I transition out of here, that I will certainly return your call, return your text message, return your email, even if it's just 2 words to say thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Okay, questions on topic? Yes.
A couple of questions. I'll try to keep it concise.
Sure.
Chief, as far as the community engagement strategy, who within the community did you engage as far as shaping it, and what does engagement between the police and the community look like from the moment they step outside of the car?
Yeah, so we are constantly in contact with community members all across the city. All of these leaders that are up here are talking with their community members daily about this. And the one thing that I hear people say is we want officers out of cars and we want to see our police officers. We want to know who those officers are. We don't want them sitting in the car scrolling on the phone. I mean, those are constant things that I hear. And as we look kind of deeper into the science of this, there are two very well-renowned professors that we're also working with in this space of what is traditional hotspot policing. That is Dr. Lum and Dr. Cooper out of George Mason University. So our strategy really is developed out of those evidence-based practices that demonstrate to us that if our officers are in the areas where they're supposed to be doing the things that they're supposed to be doing for the time that they're supposed to be doing it, we will see increases in crime in those areas. So before we get decreases in crime in those areas, but increase in terms of our engagement with communities. Those are the increases that we're looking for, the engagement increases and the decreases in crime that are associated with it. So I'm hopeful that as a result of this, that people will be able to see it, that people will be able to feel it. But more importantly, we want to evaluate it and make sure that it's evidence-based. So Dr. Lum and Dr. Cooper will be working with the Metropolitan Police Department. Last year, they were working with the 6th District, who saw reductions in crime over in the 6th District. We kind of did this on a smaller scale. But now that we're doing it on a citywide scale, we want to make sure that we have an evaluation process in place every 90 days or so. But if we need to adjust the strategy or move people around, then we want to be able to do that. So I want community members not just see it, but I want them to feel it as well.
Follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
How does it feel seeing it being implemented late into your tenure, seeing as you talked about community engagement before you became chief?
So I've been building on community engagement since day one. This is just another part. We started out, we've been doing summer crime initiatives. We went from doing summer crime initiatives where we experienced decreases in crime to adding to that next layer where we did our community focused patrol, which was very community engagement heavy. And they're still out there right now, mountain bike officers doing the work that they do. And then the next year we built on that with our homicide reduction partnership strategy that was focused on not arrest, focused really on community and reducing crime. And they did that in those areas. And then after that, the violent crime reduction partnership, next layer focused in on Good Hope Road, the Brightwood area. So it's been we've been building on this. Every year we've been building on this. And this is just really a continuation of that promise to community to make sure that we are actually engaged in the communities that we serve.
Chief, the new strategy sounds a bit like the old model of neighborhood policing that folks have been asking for years. Why did we get away from that? And do you expect that to be a challenge considering the staffing issues that you're facing?
So it's getting back to basics, and do we expect it to be a challenge? It could be, but I think the model that you see in the nightlife task force that we did, that will be the model going forward, coupled with working along with our federal partners to make sure that we are able to really maximize our efforts. That's the important piece, right? So right now, where we are, it can't just be MPD all by ourselves. It can't just be MPD. If we're going to be successful, we have to be legitimate in the eyes of the community. We have to be able to serve the community. We have to have other partners with us. So in our nightlife task force, as an example, where that's a whole of government approach in the various areas, I think that that's really the way. And if you look at the crime stats, for example, I'm sure you guys will fact check this, but you look at the crime stats from April of last year all the way through the end of last year. Once we stood up the multi-government agency task force, we had historic decreases in crime all across the board. So while, again, numbers are just numbers, it's people behind those numbers. So now we got to focus on making sure that our communities are reassured. We got to make sure that we focus on the individuals that are in the communities, because, you know, what's an acceptable number of carjackings? What's an acceptable number of homicides in any community? I would say 0 is the acceptable number. So in that space, I want to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can to engage all stakeholders to see safer neighborhoods. Sam?
Chief, so we hear that the average big city police chief is
2 to 5 years.
Okay, 2 to 5 years.
Yes, sir.
So I want to hear what you think about that, and then to ask the question, are the increasing crime numbers among the reasons that you are leaving?
No, absolutely not. As I said at the very top, Sam, I mean, we had numbers that were higher than this. Our violent crime number last year at this time was a 25% increase in violent crime and a 59% increase in robberies. That's not the way the year ended. It's a lot of months left in a year, but that really doesn't have anything to do with it, Sam. I don't know how long you've been at Channel 7. How long you been at Channel 7, Sam?
36 years.
36 years, bro. Yeah, I've been 33. I've been wearing these hot pants for a long time. And now it's time for me to transition on to another part of my life. I get to, you know, wear a suit every now and again, so I appreciate that as well. But that really has nothing to do with it, man. It's really the mission, the next level for me. I'm thinking again about the kids that are in community who look at Chief Contee, and there are a lot of them that do. As a matter of fact, when I leave here, I got a kid from community that just wanted to come in and just shadow me. Just for an hour, you know, like that means something to these kids. And to be able to elevate to the level where I am here, and then lateral move and elevate to another agency, to the FBI, like that means something to kids who look up to Chief Contee, man. And it says a lot to them. So what better time? I'm not getting any younger. I got probably less years in front of me than I do behind me. But the reality is, man, it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And as the mayor said, I get to show some special love to the city as well.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can you describe just the loss of Chief Contee, what this means to you, your working relationship with him?
I've gotten to know Chief Contee well over the years. One of the great things that I get to do as mayor is tap people to a job, in some cases, that they worked their whole lives for. And so when I can make that offer to someone who I know who has earned it and who is going to be excellent, it means a lot. And I had the opportunity to nominate Robert Contee as chief of police. Now, I'm a DC girl, so I think being mayor of your hometown is the best job you can ever have if you're somebody like me. I think if you're somebody like Robert Contee, being the police chief of your hometown is the best job you can ever have. And so to be a part of his leadership trajectory makes me feel very proud. Having said that, MPD is also a team. It's a team of great men and women who come to work every day, putting their lives on the line with great sacrifice. And one thing we haven't talked about, and the chief hasn't mentioned, is the great toll that this work has on you. This is why our police officers can retire at the age of 50, because this is a job that takes a tremendous toll on their person and their being. And so to have all of that and to have served so well for 33 years, I just told him, and I'm reminded, I think I told Kathy Lanier the same thing a few years back. Good for you. That you have done a job well. You can walk out and have a great opportunity available for you and have a chance of building a whole second career and being able to dedicate that time to your family. Good for you. Good for you. Now, do I like to see people leave who are doing a great job? No, I don't. But as mayor, am I always planning for transitions? Yes. I'm a 3-time mayor. And some folks have been with me from day one. So I'm always planning for transitions, especially with the knowledge that most people in government don't have the same situation as they do in MPD. When they get a certain age, they think about, for sure, retiring.
Piggybacking, Chief,
Yeah.
on the mayor's comments, Chief, was this job weighing on you?
Well, the job weighs on me every day. I mean, it weighs on everybody. The day I got sworn in, right, the January 2nd, the day I got sworn in, I had to send my family ahead of me to this room, to this building, because I responded to an officer-involved shooting on Georgia Avenue on my way to my swearing in. And then 4 days later, we had an insurrection. And then right after that, we had to plan for an inauguration like we've never had before in this city. Right? I mean, those are huge things that you carry around with you every single day. I remember when we had the situation up at Edmund Burke School where I had just landed in Boston to go to a conference there, and I get a phone call just after 3 o'clock. A couple of members of my team were with me, and you get a call telling you that somebody with an automatic rifle is shooting at a school with children in it. And one of the people who are critically wounded is a guy who you used to be his commander. And I turn around, pack my stuff back up in my bag from my hotel room, find a flight to make it back to Washington, D.C., to get here, to be able to walk up to the microphone and say that in all of this time, the suspect has now killed himself, et cetera. I mean, like, those are not average, everyday experiences. And my God, I'll tell you, if I never have to hear another parent who lost their child screams, if I never have to hear that again, I'm okay with that. Because that sound, it pierces my heart, man. It pierces my heart to see some of our young people where they are right now in some of the situations that they find themselves involved in gun violence in our city, and how they will recklessly take the life of someone else without thinking twice about it. So the reason that there's an average 2 to 5 year tenure for a major city chief is that you carry the weight of the world, the weight of the city on your shoulders. And I'm okay with that because I'm born and raised here. And anybody in this room from D.C. will tell you, we are some resilient people. And I think I've demonstrated that in my tenure. I'm able to leave out of here with my head high and my chest stuck out. You know why? You know why? Because I did everything that I possibly could for my city. Did I get it right every time? No. But I put it all out there. Everything that I could for my city. If one child didn't die because of something that I did, we can never count that number. If some kid don't go out and carjack somebody because of some influence that I had somewhere within this agency, some influence somewhere, some community partners in here that I've had some personal conversations with that kept situations that could have exploded down to a very small minimum level, I've done my job, and I'm proud of the work that I've done. And now I transition to this new space with new opportunities and new challenges ahead of me on a national level, and I'm very happy about that.
So the chief also, in his comments, outlines why the job of chief of police for the Metropolitan Police Department, while having a huge amount of responsibility, is also very attractive for law enforcement professionals. This is a unique department, unlike any in the United States of America, who of course has the job of policing our wonderful neighborhoods and communities and building partnerships with our residents. But also it serves to provide protection for federal events, support federal law enforcement, to help lead federal partners in local strategies as well. So this is a unique job. We know if history is any indicator, we will have a lot of interest in this job, and we are looking forward to talking to people who share our values, who want to make sure that Washington, D.C. is safe, who are crime fighters, and great leaders. Yes, Mark.
Maybe I have two quick questions. One, will Chief Contee still accompany you to the Hill when you testify?
The chief is the chief as long as he's the chief.
And then can you give us a timeline on when you would name, and is it going to be acting or interim? Where do we go to next?
Mark, we will be conducting a search, as I mentioned. Deputy Mayor Apia and her team at the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice will kind of be our lead agency. We will release, actually, we have probably already released on a website. And let me turn to Deputy Mayor Apia, who will have all of these down.
Sure. So as the mayor said, we will have already posted on DCHR, on MODA, on MPD's website a position description. We are conducting a national search, and we encourage people to apply. There'll also be a site where we will engage our public and the community and our stakeholders in the process. And so our goal is to have an expedited national search so that shortly after the chief departs from us, that we are able to name a new chief.
But I'm wondering about naming an interim chief in between when he leaves and when your national search is ended and you name a permanent replacement.
I mean, our goal will always be to name a permanent chief as quickly as possible, but to the extent we need to name an interim, that will be a part of our process that we're conducting in this period as well.
Mayor Bowser, could I ask you, just reflecting, you mentioned you're a third-term mayor. Mm-hmm. Some people have been with you since day one. Some people who were with you on day one are no longer with you. It has been a tough year for you the past 12 months in your administration. In many ways, I don't have to list all the negative things that have been in the press, but you've lost 2 deputy mayors who left not because they wanted to. You've had a congressional interference that no mayor has had to deal with in 30 years. You're now facing a huge budget shortfall in the next 3 years of your third term. Can you just kind of reflect on the weight of that? Chief Contee was very candid about the weight of being chief of police. The weight of being mayor this past year, things have not necessarily every day gone your way, and I'm just wondering if you can kind of reflect on that.
Well, I have a different view. In the last 12 months, I got elected to a historic third term. That's how I look at the last 12 months. And every day of being a big city mayor, people have asked me, third terms or this day or that day, every day of being a big city mayor is tough. The chief reflected on his first week. My first week, or first several weeks in office, there was a major disaster on Metro. Somebody died. And so every season of being mayor of a big city requires tough decisions, requires discipline, requires you always to be recruiting great people and putting them in place. So I am energized by challenges. I would say that the biggest challenge facing us as a city is how we focus on bringing people, workers, and revenues back to pre-pandemic levels that allow us to make the type of investments that we're accustomed to in our city, be it schools, parks and rec, public safety, transportation. I would regard that as the biggest issue. You raised personnel changes. As I mentioned earlier, Mark, we conducted a transition process coming into the third term. So I'm fully aware of the number of changes that we had, some expected, some unexpected, but the process that we go through to make sure we have good people in place, that continues. And it will continue in this case as well. You talk about congressional interference. That is, we know the political nature of that interference, and also not unexpected. We saw the signals coming to a Republican House majority were signaling for months what they might do to further their political goals in the district. So we stand ready to deal with that as well. As far as budgets go, we've had a run in this city. I've been here since 2007. We haven't had since the last recession, the 2009-2010 area, situation where we've had declining revenues. But we are dealing with the tails of the pandemic, especially in our downtown. And we are going to be dealing with that for several years. But the tools that we have to deal with it are pretty robust. I submitted a balanced budget to the council that was fiscally responsible and sustainable over the financial plan, and I expect that we'll get there at the end of their process as well. Yep.
Topic question.
Okay.
There's a proposal from the council to add a $2 fee or congestion tax to Uber and ride shares. Can you weigh in on that? Do you think
I think it's a terrible idea.
Can you go beyond that?
I don't know all the details because the budget reports just came out, but I think any efforts to attack the downtown right now is a terrible idea.
How about the case report?
Terrible idea. Any effort to attack the downtown, taking capital dollars out, or actually charging people to come downtown extra is the antithesis to a comeback, to an investment in the comeback of downtown.
Mayor, you have to go back to Chief Ramsey when DC brought in a police chief from out of town.
Okay.
Is it possible there's talent to tap within the department?
Of course there is. Of course there is.
How closely will you be looking at that?
Very closely.
What are the criteria for your next chief, for your national search?
We've posted our position description, and I would commend that to your attention. But top of mind, excellent leadership, a commitment to crime fighting, and a commitment to DC values.
What about community policing? I mean,
that's part of it, obviously. I mean, I'm not talking about every policing strategy, but when I say we want you to be a crime fighter, that's what I mean.
I need some water, y'all. I need some water, y'all. I'm walking out to get some water. I'm tired of this bullshit. Yeah, they're all lying. It's all lies. It's all bullshit.
Any other questions? Yes.
Back to the initiative and what does
Sure.
it look like in the neighborhoods when we don't have, like you're saying, we don't have enough police officers. You're going to see 2 and 2. You're going to see so. How is this going to look for?
So we've identified. If we look at data, and as we look, excuse me, I'm dealing with some allergy stuff, but. We look at data across the city, and we look at areas where there are crime densities, as an example. And as we look at those crime densities, if you talk to Dr. Coper and Dr. Lum, they tell you, and you learn a little bit about hotspot policing, the science tells us if you focus in, or the research rather tells us if you focus in on specific areas for designated times, it doesn't have to be an officer standing on at a fixed posts, but officers actually meaningfully engaging communities for periods of time throughout the course of their tour of duty, you see decreases in crime in those areas. But also the other thing that could happen is that there could be crime shifts. So if a crime shift happens, let's say, for example, we're focusing on the 1400 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, and we start deploying this strategy here in the 1400 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, but you start seeing things pop up in the 900 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, now the strategy would have to be adjusted in terms of the area that we focused on. And what we did in the past with like Summer Crime Initiative, we would have this area, 1400 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, and we would evaluate it at the very end of the summer. Even if the problem moves someplace else, it's kind of, you know, we want to be more intentional about how we deal with displacement. And this focuses on all communities. I would announce the Summer Crime Initiatives, and everybody would say, oh, well, you didn't hit my district, you didn't hit my district, you didn't hit my district. So this, again, 2nd District, 1st District, 3rd District, 4th District, every district commander has identified about 4 target areas or 4 areas that they want to focus on, and then that could change at the end of 90 days. So we want to be a little bit more strategic about how we do it, utilizing the resources that we have. So resources that we have, that could be your regular patrol guys, it could be your other support units that will support these officers in their fight, but really focused in on those areas. And then again, utilizing Dr. Coper, Dr. Lum to be able to go back with us, make sure we're staying honest to our strategy and evaluate how effective it is.
Okay, you just gotta ask a question. Yeah. Here, yep. Sorry, I didn't count off that time. Okay.
Chief Ted Oberg from News 4. To follow up on this question,
yeah.
You described it as back to basics.
Yes.
Why aren't officers doing that now? And is it an admission that there are just not enough officers and the ones that are here are too busy?
So when you think about the number of calls for service, as an example, our officers respond over 500,000 calls for service a year. Right, that same amount of officers that I had on January 2nd, 2021 is not what we have now. So the demand is still there for our police officers to be able to come to these spaces. They go from call to call to call. What I'm saying now is that we want to be very intentional about carving out time in their day where they're not running to a call to be able to actually focus in on a community. That's important. Everything is not a priority. Chief Ramsey used to say, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority, right? So everything is not a priority. Yes, there may be some issue here or issue there, but we have to be intentional about officers being able to get out the cars and engage our community members and focus on other things. If it's graffiti that's out there, there's nothing wrong with that officer sending in a 311 ticket to say, hey, this graffiti needs to be cleaned up. There's nothing wrong with our officers reaching out to our partners at DPW saying, hey, it's a bunch of trash or it's a car here that needs to be towed away. So we want to be more impactful doing things like that as opposed to, right, just being stationary in an area, you know, waiting for a crime to happen or just focusing on, you know, putting handcuffs on somebody. We want to be focused and we want to be intentional about being supportive in our communities. This is not an arrest-based initiative. That's not what this is about. It's really about, and I invite community members as they see their officers out there on their focus patrol, walk with them, point out things that are there so they can report those things as well.
Chief, one of the things though.
I'm sorry, you weren't in the lineup. Who's next?
I'm sorry, but I only got one question.
I know, but you've asked two, and
one of the issues.
Oh, that's so rude.
One of the issues that we saw post George Floyd.
We're going to have to. I'm not going to answer your question. Who's next? No, I'm not. Who's next, Lou? You go. You've had your chance.
Chief, I was just regarding the issue of community engagement policing. Could you say a little bit about how that might help MPD investigate or prevent hate crimes, particularly because, as you may know, the largest number of hate crimes reported recently and continuing are those targeting the LGBT community?
So one thing that it very well could do, Lou, is to strengthen that relationship. So in fact, I mean, you could actually see an increase in reporting because people are more comfortable having those conversations with our police officers because it's not just a guy who's on the corner, you know, on his cell phone or going to a call or writing a report. This is actually a guy or person a police officer who gets out of the car, who's engaging them, who they have relationship with. We want to move from, right, in spaces where we may appear to be transactional, we want to move to a space where we're relational with the communities that we serve.
Who was next?
I'd love to defer to Stephanie, but I will ask.
You can defer, but then.
Then I will have one. Stephanie.
Chief, I want to ask you about the officers who may not be willing to do this. We saw post George Floyd, the summer of racial reckoning, that there was tension between police and the community, And that's one of the reasons why officers were not going out into the community. How are you addressing that? It's not just being able to go out and all of a sudden build trust again. Please.
Well, we're not just starting that today. I mean, I'm sure you follow our social media. We're engaging community all over the place. This is a video of me playing a tambourine running around here somewhere. We engage community members all over the place. This is really carving out that time for our officers, being intentional in that space. Our officers engage people. I mean, I'm sure you do too, right? Matter of fact, a couple of nights ago, we were over on U Street, and Miss Ali, Virginia Ali, happened to be in Ben's Chili Bowl. So I got a chance to go in there and talk with her. She talked about, the officers that were out there on the U Street corridor. So the officers are out there engaging. We're just continuing to build on community engagement. Community engagement is not a new thing to the Metropolitan Police Department. It's just not. It's how we do it, being more strategic, being more focused, and building on really a firm foundation that has already started here.
So are you finding that you're getting any pushback from officers on this?
I'm not seeing that we're getting pushback from officers. When we announced our Vision 2025, we have, matter of fact, I'll tell you one of the things that we did. One of the work groups we did, one of our pillars is impactful community engagement. So we opened it up to officers to come in and be a part of the executive team to talk about strategies around impactful community engagement. 100 police officers showed up on their own time to participate in that discussion about being more impactful in community, just like getting our own house in order. So I don't buy that, this is going to be, we don't have to drag a police officer to engage a community member. I don't buy that at all. Our officers are engaging people every single day. Just follow us on our social media, and I'm sure you'll see some active engagement somewhere.
Chief,
yes, ma'am.
When Charles Ramsey left MPD, he said his one regret was not solving the 9-year-old murder of Dante Manning. Do you have any regrets, 3 decades with the department, as you leave anything that's going to gnaw at you?
There's always things that gnaw at you. And, one of the things that really gnaws at me, I think that as a city, as a community, we have to come together about what's acceptable and what's not in terms of holding people accountable for things that they do in our communities that make our communities less safe. I asked you, and I asked this audience, what's an acceptable number of carjackers to be in community? We have to answer that question and really wrestle with that. And what is it that we want? Do we want people who are engaging in acts of violence like that, walking around on the streets of the District of Columbia? And if we don't want to see that, what changes within the ecosystem need to happen so that we ensure that that's not your mother, your father, your sister, your brother that's on the end of that carjacking? Yes.
When did the FBI first approach you about this opportunity, and when did you tell the mayor you were thinking of leaving?
So the issue came up over the course of the last few months. It was this year when it came up. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and wrestled with it. And once I really accepted the offer, which was within the last couple of days, and the mayor and I had a conversation about it. I had made no firm decisions about anything. Like I said, as the chief of police, Washington is a very attractive city. You get offers from private sector. I mean, someone's always trying to recruit you or give you a business card. Hey, look, come work for us, kind of thing. You're eligible to retire. I mean, so that always happens. But specifically with the FBI, that was this year. And like I said, as immediately as when I accepted the offer, I informed the mayor on Monday about it.
Chief Contee, this is for you. You've spoken over the last few years about frustration with other parts of the criminal justice system.
Yes.
You used the word accountability.
Yes.
A lot. Did that contribute in any way to your decision? I know there was an attractive other offer, but did that frustration mount?
No, that didn't weigh into the decision. I mean, I'm a fighter, man. You're going to have to do more than that to try to run me out of here. But it's not, I mean, every day can be frustrating, right? I get frustrated when the media says things that I don't say sometimes, right? But that don't run me out the door, right? I mean, it's really just, as we talked about, just an incredible opportunity. I'd like to see those things fixed. I'm still a D.C. resident. I still traverse these streets. Even after I'm chief, I'm a homeowner here. I pay taxes here in this city, and I want the best for our city. So if part of that is correcting our criminal justice ecosystem, and I had something to do with pushing the envelope to do that, that's great.
And, we've talked a lot about staffing and attrition.
Yes.
there are a lot of people here who feel very loyal to you, I'm sure. What are you going to do to sort of stop your departure from inspiring another wave of departures from?
So, one of the things that I've done is invested in a great team. When I say invested in personally, invested in their development by trying to make sure that as the mayor makes her decision, I knew that one day I would leave. So day one, I'm starting investing in these folks to make sure that there are qualified people within the Metropolitan Police Department who might one day rise to the rank of being the chief of police. Having said that, they're going to make their individual decisions for their individual reasons. And I respect that. I respect the decisions that they make. I mean, there have been we had an assistant chief retire a week or so ago. And before that, somebody else retired. So it's the life cycle of law enforcement. I mean, the years that you do, 25 years, 30 years, 35 years doing the same thing. Young people today don't want to work a job longer than 3 years. I mean, it changed jobs quite frequently. So to do this for as long as we have and just kind of, have the experiences that you have, you get to a point where, again, it's like, you know what? Now's my time. And they'll make their individual decisions about that. And I'm sure you got some very likely candidates that are standing behind me that the mayor will strongly consider.
And Mayor Bowser, did you do anything to ask the chief to stay? Did you try to get him to continue to serve as the chief of police?
I always work with my excellent directors. So that's all I have to say. But moda.dc.gov if you want to have the best policing job in the world. Thank you. I won't be able to do community questions today, but thank you, everybody.
Will you be firing Sergeant Otero Camacho? $20 million away from the police gun violence is violence.